Live on Twitch and going live on YouTube in just a second. So I'm actually going to give you a small heads up that you should be heard perfectly, but there's a chance I'll be a little bit quiet or loud to people. I'm on a new computer today, so Chris is able to see me while we're doing this. And because of that, my volume leveling might be just a little bit off. So if anybody has a complaint, we can go ahead and yell at me in chat. And otherwise, yeah, let's get going. So I'm Violation, and I'm a player with Shroud of the Avatar community, and I'm here to bother Chris, our technical director, and try to make him spill the beans on why we hate the Oracle so much and what exactly she's done to destroy our understanding of experience. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about experience, basically the nitty gritty on all the details with what is the different sets of experience, why they are, and go ahead, take it away, Chris. Tell him to check the forums. I have sent it to him about 45 minutes ago on the forums. I will be more than happy to re-ping that out through Discord. So, okay. Cool. So starting off, we're gonna get into some nitty gritty stuff here, and there's some really basic stuff that a lot of people really don't understand about Shroud of the Avatar that varies from most games I've played before. You guys don't just have one experience pool. You guys have a few different ways you track experience. You've got your adventure level, your experience pools, and then your skill experience. Can you just define those as you see them and kind of explain what their different purposes are so everybody understands?
Other system for leveling, some other way to manage how you gain experience and how you improve at things, and that we want to make sure that there was the option for people to be purely adventurers and gain experience in that and be great at that, or purely crafters and be great at that, or be both. So the way we accomplished that was through two experience pools. Now, the reason we have experience pools, if you're one of the people out there who was an Ultima Online person and saying, why didn't you just use pure use space, is I think most people saw, even with years of evolution and how Ultima Online works, there's just a lot of silliness and artificial feeling type stuff that you do to level up skills when it's pure use based. We're trying to tie that to some achievement, so we didn't have the usual, all I'm going to do is go stand in front of a punching bag type stuff in the game. So instead, what we did was we came up with kind of a hybrid system that feels a little more like most games, in that it's experience, and you gain experience for killing things or for crafting things or for doing anything. But then it goes into a pool, and then when you use a skill, your experience gets applied to that skill out of the pool. So this way it keeps you from doing, like I said, all I'm really doing is something pointless purely to gain a skill. From my times in playing Ultima Online, some of my memories that I had were just these standard people summoning things for other people to fight so they could level up skills. I also remember seeing the football scrums is pretty much what it looked like, getting a line of people together who would run for it into paralysis fields and fire fields just to level up stuff. And that's kind of the artificial leveling up type stuff that I'm talking about. We're trying to get around that. So it's not just purely you playing against the system, but you actually are encouraged to play the game, and that's the best way to level up skills. So for instance, in our game, you can stand in front of a punching bag all day and you can keep hitting it, but because there's an experience pool that you fill up by doing actual stuff, and the use of the skill is just that experience, you'll get diminishing returns on that skill. So at some point, you'll basically be doing nothing to advance that skill until you go back out to adventure, finish a quest, craft an item, that type of stuff that actually puts experience back into the pool. So it was trying to solve a problem and find a middle ground of use space without as much of the forcing you to do artificial stuff. Obviously, there's still some artificial stuff that needs to be done in the game that players do. For instance, some people, if they want to level up a skill, I know they basically turn off all experience spending and all skills to build up a big pool, and then they go do stupid stuff with that skill for a long time to basically apply all that experience to that skill.
Yeah, I actually get a kick out of that because I've tried to have the conversation with people about how you're spending 15 hours grinding your experience, and then you're spending 15 hours applying your experience, where if you'd use that skill for 20 hours, you'd be at the exact same point. And it seems like that has been a miss. That it's not connecting in their minds that that's taking longer to do it that way. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's just human nature, or at least the human nature that's evolved from people playing video games for 20 plus years, or however long people have been playing. In some cases, far less because they're not that old. But you get used to what's the optimal way to do this one thing I want to do. I read about it online and I want to go do the thing. And they figure out what the most optimal way is, and they miss the whole hey, I could also get the same results slightly slower and have more fun than the slightly optimal way. But yeah, so there's a group of people who absolutely that's what they want to do. Is they don't care what the most fun way is to do something. They just want the fastest way, the most optimal way, and they've already Googled it online and know what it is. All thanks to SodaWiki ruining everything for us.
Hey, nice way to kind of avert blame there. So we kind of have this stuff explained. So let's get into the adventuring side. So there's the two different sides, right? There's the crafting and the adventuring. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna fix this title here, and we're gonna dig into the adventuring side. And ready, set, go.
Oh, am I supposed to be talking on this?
Yeah.
All right.
So adventuring, like single player versus multiplayer, when you're alone with other people, when you're killing mobs, yeah, that stuff.
Yeah. So again, there's adventuring experience and resource experience, producer experience, I think is what we call it, at least internally. I forget what the UI says. If you can see how much you have experience in your pools by going to your skills interface. And I'm trying to get at least a 10% reduction in my UZ this time around. Man, I even snuck one in right there. Anyways, you can see if you go to your skill list, down at the bottom, there will be showing you the experience in your pool and how much to spend. You can mouse over skills and see how much has been applied to skills. Oh, wait, I forget if you guys can do that or not. You guys can't do that. Can you? I forget what stuff is just in our GM version and what stuff is in the library.
No,
okay,
the applied amount isn't in that tooltip yet.
You can see what the current skill level is, and there's also a little tiny progress bar at the bottom of the skill mouse over it. So you can actually see your progress. You just can't see it as numbers in skill. So going back to the list now. So single player versus friends play versus multiplayer. We're trying to make sure there's a couple of reasons why we have some different levels of experience. The least experience you'll earn is also the most experience you will earn, which sounds weird, but playing in single player online, we don't give you any experience bonus for that. That's not a style of play we're trying to encourage, just because it's kind of I mean, some people want to do that. Some people don't want to group up. Some people just want to go explore by themselves or play it more like a single player game, but then they can switch back into a multiplayer game later. So we have a single player version for that, and you don't get the experience bonus. There's an experience bonus that you get for playing in multiplayer version. Uh, the reason I say single player is the lowest and highest experience version is because in single player you don't get the 10% bonus you get for playing in multiplayer online, but you do get to not have to compete with anybody else for creatures. So for a lot of people, that's still the best experience option, is going and doing single player online and going and farming stuff. But for friends play online, that's really, at some point we started looking at how things worked, and single player and friends play are really the same thing. Just in terms of how we group people, it's just whether or not you're in a group of people or not. We still have different buttons for them, I think, but honestly, underneath the covers, they do almost exactly the same thing at this point. That will be changing in the future, but right now they pretty much do the same thing. It
And
also,
I'll jump in here and I'll speak to this benefit. So when I'm out with a couple of my buddies and we're trying to get experience as fast as we can, we like that 10% kick from multiplayer, but it's way better to go into a group with 2 or 3 people in friends play mode and farm at your min max. So there's a point where you go, you have to balance this, right? And when you hear Chris saying single player and friends player the same, a lot of what's going on in my mind is people going, they need to give a bonus to friends play. I've heard that a lot. But the reality is, right now, my most efficient form of farming is jumping in a party with people who are twice my level and being carried in friends play mode, because then we don't have to compete with anything. And when I say being carried, I really mean it, because Chris has seen me in the hilt before. I die a lot. My party members have to carry me a lot. So, but yeah, that's what it comes down to. Is there is a benefit to not having to compete for those resources that that I think it does make a lot of sense. So before you cry foul, try it out.
and the other thing is playing in a group. So playing in single player, it's just whatever experience you earn is what you earn. There's no bonuses, whatever. If you're playing in friends play, you're in a group. Being in a group gives you a bonus as well, since you have to kind of divide that experience. And that's, some of this is because it makes sense realistically if this were how things work, but also some of it is because we're trying to encourage certain types of behavior. We like people playing together. We're not trying to force it. And again, the highest experienced people are generally in single player or occasionally friends play, but not multiplayer. And then multiplayer, you get the same thing if you're in a group. You get an experience bonus for being in the group. I'm trying to remember what the exact number is right now. I think it's you get 25% for the first guy and then 15% for each additional person. Anyone correct me?
By the time I get it all up there, I usually see about a 10%, but we're usually running 8-man parties, so I could be running my math a little bit off too, but does that sound right for an 8-man party? You can expect about a 10% per?
That should be, no, it should be more than 10% of it should be more like 20%, because by the time you get to an 8-man party, I think you're up to about, let's see, 105. So you're up to about 115% bonus. So you get 2.1 times the experience just for being in that party, but then it's divided 8 ways.
Yeah,
so it's really more like 25%.
I would say it feels a little bit lower than that, but I also have not done a use case on it. So that's, you go back to, I don't find it's necessary, because for me it's still the fastest experience gain, right? Because I'm still having 7 other guys kill things faster than I can. So what do I care?
Yeah, and for most people, playing in a big party like that's great, because if one guy drops out, it's unlikely it's going to disrupt the party. So especially those of us with kids or spouses that need things, it's always nice being a party. Just you don't have any downtime, basically.
The dragon still dies even if one guy steps away.
Yeah, unless they're the healing.
So what about that though? What if that when you're in a party killing the mob, can we get like an exact math example here of experience applied? So you've talked about the experience pool. So say I kill a dragon, and I'm going to give you a raw number here of, say, I get 4,000 experience. So I've got 8 guys in my party. So I have 4,000 experience with 8 guys. Kind of give me an idea of what I can expect to get experience-wise. So,
All right. So if you're 8 guys, we'll do 8 guys and playing in multiplayer online. Hey, look, you can see my number up there. So the total number, so the base experience everybody would be getting is 4,000 divided by 8 equals 500 experience points. But wait, there's more. Because you're playing in a party, and again, this is the part I don't remember the exact math that it's set to right now. You get just being in a party is a 10% bonus, and then I think we give you plus 15% per person. So you'd have 10% plus 7, 15% times 7, because you don't get to count yourself, equals 115. So really you get 500, but then you also get a bonus 575, so you got 1,075 experience points per person. But wait, there's more. So you got 1,075 experience because you're playing in online mode. You get another plus 10%. If you're playing in online mode and your PvP, because there's extra risk involved in that, and also because we want to encourage PvP a little bit, you could get another 10% more than that. So anyways, if you kill a 4,000 experience point dragon, I think they're more like 15 or 20,000 experience points, but then again, you're a noob, and so you haven't killed many dragons.
oh, that was harsh. That was
but
brutal.
anyways, if a group of 8 killed a 4,000 experience points dragon, I mean, this pretty much translates over. You get about 2.36 times as much experience as your fair share. Your normal share would be a 500. There you go. Here's all the math. So single player with other people, let's see, when killing a mob, when I complete a quest, I'm trying to remember the quest stuff. I don't believe there's any bonuses that get applied to quest experience.
0, but there's been a common question, so I wanted it to come from a dev. I get that. How does it work? I guess the better question isn't what do I get? The better question is, how does it work when I complete a quest? What actually happens in the tech, right?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're playing in online mode, all the experience is coming from the server and set on the server. But the quest has some rewards associated with it. That's everything in our game is pretty much in what we call bundles. So you get there's some type of bundle associated with it that's going to give you some amount of experience and some amount of gold reward. There may be some type of virtue bonus that goes along with it. There may be other flags that get set. There could also be things like, hey, you unlocked a title, so you can have a new title for completing some quest. Lots of stuff. Unlocking a skill. Yeah, pretty much we can give out anything we want to with those bundles when you finish a quest. But I'm pretty sure that any quest stuff is character to character. And you get no bonus for being in a party, you get no bonus for doing it in multiplayer, you get no bonus for being PvP when you do it.
So I'm not sure when it'll hit the stream, but I just threw up a notepad with your notes you made on your board. I minor changed them, but it has all the math stuff that people were asking for math. Your camera is reversed. Just as an FYI, you never did a flip horizontal, so I'm feeding your reverse, and I can't flip YouTube's Hangout, so it's okay. So I just threw it up. So if you want to reverse back to that, you can. But the amount applied to give you the answer back, I'm seeing a lot of chatter in the game. The amount of experience, I just pulled a number out of thin air. I've never paid attention to how much experience I got while killing dragons, but I will tell you, in a group of 8 people, having almost my entire death tree unlocked when I have over 800 skill points applied when I look at my left number, I usually stay positive. Okay, so you get more than 4,000 killing a dragon, yes. And in a large party like that, you get all the bonuses he's talking about. So yes, I realize 4,000 was a low number. I just wanted to give him something to work with so he could tell you guys, this is an actual number, this is actual math, and this is what you can see. So, is it true that Atos is worth 50,000 experience per kill? Last I heard, Atos was a really easy kill, so he's not worth anything.
So sometimes I'm really hard to kill. Sometimes I'm really easy to kill. And the reason is, and I think most people who've killed me know this, but when I'm in the game, I sadly don't often get the luxury to just play for playing. I'm usually doing something because I'm trying to test out a specific build. So usually when you see me in game, and if you just happen to, oh wait, hold on, I think I might have it. All right, like auto follow my face. Can I do that? Does that work? Oh, I don't want to do follow my face.
No, that won't
I'm
help.
trying to work on my camera stuff here. Direct input, left, normal, blah, blah, blah. Mirrored? No, I want. How about
There
that?
you go. Now you're not mirrored. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
But anyway, so if you kill me in game, my ongoing excuse will be, oh, well, I was trying out a new build because I'm trying to balance something, and this is clearly not balanced and needs some work. So that will be my ongoing experience, as so many people have killed me in game at this point that they probably wonder what I'm doing wrong. I usually know what I'm doing wrong. I will not claim to be nearly as good as some of the advanced people. Even I'm trying to remember his in-game name. Our designer Travis, I can't remember his in-game name. Corpor something something. Anyways, the players probably know him at this point, but he's probably heads and shoulders above me. Even though I know all the math, apparently knowing all the math doesn't actually make you good at stuff. I also know all the math for like baseball and physics and all the or in football, but all the other things too. But doesn't mean I'm good at them. But anyway, so yes, kill me in game, but I'm worth no experience points. And actually, I usually keep my dev flags set so you won't get any of my gear because I sometimes have artifacts that don't actually exist in the game. But I do give up my skull and other bones and things like that fairly easily. So there's a few shrines to me. I've seen them.
so let's talk about that. You died. So what
Mhm.
happens to your experience since you died?
So as for the experience, this was another one as to how to cap things. And again, this is another one I could probably talk for an hour on, just on this topic of how to balance things. Because the thing you want to reach is the other thing. Anybody who's played Ultima Online knows they do kind of basically the cap is based on how many skills you can get to a high level. And it's just kind of a hard cap. If you want to learn something new, you got to go and learn something else. The thing we chose to do, I didn't like that personally, and it didn't fit with a lot of the way the game works because we already have this most things work based on the power of the skill is based on the square root of the skill. I know it may not feel like that sometimes, but almost across the board, that's how things work. Is the power is based on the square root of the skill. So doubling your skill doesn't mean you're twice as good at something. There are a lot of things that add up though, so that square root ends up being flat or even slightly exponential by the time you factor in all of the things going together and the bonuses and the passives and those things. But we wanted to make it so players could continue to level because it is, although it has some benefits to, like, there's no grinding at all practically. If you have hard caps, it reduces the amount of grinding to get some to a certain level. But we wanted to have this be a game where players could continue, and the focus was on both adventuring and PvPing and on crafting. And we wanted it to go on forever. And we didn't want to have caps just because for a lot of people, the lack of dings or progression can be frustrating and agonizing. You want to feel like you're making some progress. And at least with the other system, there was basically you got to a point where there's no real progress being felt. So the system we came up with instead was kind of a mathematical one that a lot of people have had trouble understanding. So I end up explaining it a few times. But again, this is explaining the details of it that the player should never really have to know. But I know that human nature is the min-maxers out there, and a lot of people want to understand exactly how things work so they know how to play optimally instead of just going and playing and having fun. So I'll tell you about decay, because decay is what we use to effectively cap experience gain. When you die, right now it is only when you die. Right now, one of the ones we have on our list to change is crafters have no decay. It never gets applied right now. For adventuring experience, and And the reason that's not as important right now is because while there is some aspect of crafters going head to head, there's not that same aspect. It's not the same as being the adventures where there can be people PvPing and you want to feel like you have a chance against that guy, and it's just less important that that guy has 10 more points of some skill than I do. It's not as important on the crafting side of things. That's why we haven't done the decay yet for crafting. For the adventure though, the decay, when you die,
Subtitle there. The subtitle is, it's not as important for balancing to make the game successful. We still love you, crafters. Go ahead, continue.
So the way the decay system works, and again, this is our alternative to having hard skill caps, is when all the time you're playing the game, no matter what you're doing, you are accruing decay experience. Now, there is a cap on experience as to how much you can accrue. When you die, that decay gets applied to your skills. If your skills are set to maintain or advance, it will, rather than remove it from each skill, that's some small amount from each skill, it will pull it from your pooled experience, your adventuring pooled experience. So usually you will not see any of your skills drop if you have pooled experience. That's why we made a change a while back to increase the size of the pool, so that when you died, unless you just hadn't made much progress at all, like you hadn't had any successes at all, killed anything lately, when you die, you generally won't see skills decrease. You'll just see the size of your pool decrease, which will slow your progress going forward, but it doesn't feel as painful as losing skills. Now, the math for it, I don't think I put it up on your thing. Let me grab an eraser real quick.
Yep. And while you're doing that, I'm going to give you kind of a next cue that's, you can write this at the same time if you want. So you're about to write up what gets removed from your pool. You're writing it backward. That's cute.
Oh, am I writing it backward? The camera moves people.
No, the camera's not backward. You're just trying to mess with people. Anyway, sorry, did I spoil your fun? It's not April 1st anymore.
I guess I am wearing a shirt with like letters on it.
Yeah, it kind of gives it away. No, but you're putting in how decay is applied. Also, the next question I'm going to be asking is, okay, so I just used this skill. How does it come out of the pool for the use on the skill? So both of those kind of deplete the pool, and they both use some of that same math, I think. So if you wanted to write it all at once, you're welcome. So, yeah, anyway.
Let's see.
I have seen...
How to write this to explain it.
I have seen one time, I've seen my skill points drop from decay, and it was when I was playing with Lord British. I just want to point it out there. He may be invulnerable to death, but it doesn't extend to his party members. I think that needs to get patched. I think if you're in a party with Lord British, because how he likes to pull entire scenes, I think we should be protected as well.
I have a story on that I can tell also. As soon as I finish this.
Okay. Yeah. Filler. Do. No, anyway. Oh, look out. We're getting very detailed, aren't we?
Trying to see if I'm off the board yet.
Oh, no. You're not off the board.
And I'm off? No, I'm on there.
You're good. You're good. I said you're not off the board.
Okay.
You've got good space on both sides. Okay, so per skill, applied EXP by...
So, like you've leveled up your one-handed blade to level 100. I think that's about 1 million applied experience points or something. Maybe actually higher than that. That may be what it is for normal skill. The amount it takes to advance each skill actually varies. It's not consistent across all of them for a number of reasons. Also, the rate at which experience gets applied per use is different per skill. Again, this is all stuff when I talk about it sounds complicated, but you shouldn't have to look at it. You shouldn't have to think about it. Just telling this for the min-maxers who are out there trying to reproduce math at home. The reason it's a different amount gets applied per use of a skill is some things like, hey, summon elemental. It takes more experience to level it, but because it's a type skill you don't cast very often, we apply more per use of the skill. So you can, if you sit there and cast summon elemental or resurrect or some of these other big spells, you will drain your pool pretty quick and level that up pretty quick, but it basically levels in fewer casts. But anyway, so the applied experience, we'll take the experience or the example of you got a thrust, skill, blades, or rend. You got 1,000,000 experience points in the pool. It's right around GM, I think. You haven't died for, we'll go with 8 hours. You've been in game for 8 hours. So 0.33. And then you got times 0.0025. Movement period.
Did you put autofocus on your camera?
Did I?
Yeah, you should totally take autofocus off.
I don't know how to do that.
The same place.
I get somebody technical in here to do this for me.
The same place you. Yeah, right. The webcam control thing that you were saying. Well, do I click this or that? Yeah.
Now I've got autofocus on.
Thanks.
That work?
Yeah, that's way better. It was coming in and out, so off is better.
Okay. Well, here, let me. How about that? There. Okay.
That should be. Yep.
Anyways.
Thank you.
So 1,000,000. So this is you died. You're fighting along. You've got 1,000,000 experience points in your rend skill. You die. When you die, you've had 8 hours since you last died. So you basically get 1,000,000 experience points times 8. I should represent that differently. 8 divided by 24 because it's 8 hours in a day times 0.025. Now, the reason it's 0.025, well, one, that's arbitrary. There's actually a bunch of big spreadsheets that were done and pulled up to see target numbers for if you died, like made the worst case choices ever, didn't really gain any experience, and screwed up how long until we want you to lose half your experience points. And we kind of made some target numbers that I think were around 250 days. So anyways, let me do the math here just to show you. So this is 333,000 divided by that. So that's going to be about 3 divided by 4. I'm going to go with about 0.8. We'll go with 0.81. Whoops. By 0.8.
I'm not going to completely troll you here. I'm just going to throw out there something on the screen with you while you're doing that. So what did you get?
Let's see. So 400, 320,000, 8,100.
Oh, you did
825.
It's
8250.
Yeah, 8250 is what it would be. You were really close though for freehand. Anyway,
you can go Google me. Texas math and science math team state champion.
Look out. So, no, yeah. So decay pulls out of that pool. Now, what about when you use the skill? What about so you used a skill with 1,000,000 experience. Yeah, that's how you're calculating your decay, right?
Yeah. So this is what happens when you die. Is you will lose, for an example, a skill. If it's been 8 hours since you died last, you will lose 8,000 out of that skill. Now that doesn't sound like much. The thing to remember is that's not one skill. That's on every skill. So the goal for this was, if you want to keep a ton of things at high level, if you want to keep a ton of skills at GM, it's going to get more and more expensive when you die. So the more skills you have, the more you lose total, because that comes off of this skill. But really what that happens, that comes off your experience pool unless you have it. So you will have to start keeping a massive experience pool if you want to keep like 50 things at GM or something like that. You can do it, and there's actually players in game who have more than that. But again, in the future, you'll probably see those guys even not being able to maintain them and dropping them. Because the other thing is right now, the way we've kind of slowly rolled this out, and it'll be ramping up in R41, I've already changed the numbers internally, is right now the cap on this, how many hours you can accrue, is 12 hours maximum accrued. In R41, that'll be going up to 24 hours. So basically you can lose 1/400th of your experience on a death in worst case.
So I want to throw another disclaimer out there too that I haven't heard you say yet. Your 1,000,000 XP skills are basically your tier 1s, and they're few and far between. Most of your skills are using more than 1 million experience. And when you
Yes.
get to your really powerful tier 3 through tier 5 stuff and your passives that benefit everything, they use a lot more experience. So if you want to be the most powerful kick butt GM in all of existence with all GM of everything, you pay for it on death.
Yeah, and passives generally run around their. I think their minimum is around 3 times what is shown up there. And things like your strength skill and intelligence and dexterity skill, those run more in the 10 times range.
So, what about when you use a skill? I mean, we're talking
So
similar math here, but it's kind of in reverse, right?
yeah, and the applying the skill gets a little more complicated, and we've been slowly morphing that over time. So I'm not sure I have the exact math in my head or the exact rules for it. But the idea is when you use a skill, when you do anything that is a can apply experience, that is usually use a skill of some sort. It pulls about 1/100th of your experience out of your pool. If you have a pool, I'm trying to remember. No, it's 1/1000th. Sorry. If you have a pool of 1 million experience points right now, which is a lot, it'll pull 1,000 experience points out and apply that to skills. And actually, the thing I'm trying to remember, which makes a huge difference, is does it do 1,000th of your total experience point on one skill, or does it do that to each skill? I think it actually does one time, and then it splits it applied to all of them. So if you have 10 skills that are set to level, then you may have up to 10, have the experience split up to 10 ways. Now, not everything gains when you use a skill. The things that usually gain a skill, like if you use, we'll go back to the rend, is if you use the rend skill, your rend skill will go up. I believe your blades, just your one-handed blades, will go up if you have it set to train. Passives in the rend or in the blade school will go up, and then there's a handful of other passives that just go up, get experience applied anytime something's used. Those are things like strength, intelligence, dexterity. There's a few others that there was just no good way to tell when that skills are being applied. So really, anytime you do something, a little bit of experience gets applied to all of them. But anyways, so your pool size, having a big pool size determines how much gets applied, which will determine how fast things go up.
What if I have 100 million experience in my pool? Is there a point where that caps?
Yes. This is good. You know all the answers to these things, so you're just feeding them to me.
I know.
So yes, so there's a couple of different caps on it. There's a minimum number of uses that a skill requires to go up per level, which that kind of caps it. So if you're on level, like going from skill level 50 to 51, I think the minimum number of times you have to use a skill is about 20 times. So that can cap it because it'll cap how much experience can get applied based on that. Now that extra experience is not wasted, it just doesn't get pulled from the pool or gets put on other skills. But there's a cap for that. So that's why if you have 10 million experience points in your pool and you have a skill at 3 and you use it, it may not even go to 4. I think the first 10 points come really, really quick because I think most people don't realize how little experience it takes to get from like skill level 1 to 20. I've had some people complain about, why do you even bother having skills under 20? They're so useless. And it's mainly because I think it takes about 400 experience points to get from skill level 1 to, I think it's 254 to get from skill level 1 to 10, and then it's like 1,000 to get to skill level 20. That is so quick, and it's really, you're talking less than 100 uses of the skill if you have any experience points at all in your pool. But yeah, there's the cap for that, and then there's also, I think that is actually really the only cap, that, and it's also just that it's being split multiple ways. There's not really a cap from that. It's just
your pull on your
you have 100
experience pool. If you have absolutely every skill unlocked, you used to have a max pull on the pool as well. So if
Yeah.
you were to bank millions and millions and millions and millions of experience just to try to power level somebody and sell like a pre-kit character, you had mentioned that you put a cap on that too. So
Yeah. Another thing worth noting is training. If you look on your skills, you have the advanced, maintain, forget, and then or neglect, I think, and then forget or untrain. For this release, we just added a new feature. If you do the untrain thing, I think you're getting maybe 50% of your experience back into your pool. So if you have a skill really high and you're like, okay, screw it, I don't want to do blades anymore, I'm all about pole arms. By the way, you'd be an idiot if you did that. I still have not made the tuning pass on pole arms. But anyways, if you want to unlearn all of your blade skills, you could do that, and the experience would go back into your adventuring pool experience, which would help you learn other skills faster. So there's a good reason to do that. On releases, when I make major design changes or fix major bugs is usually the bigger issue that result in a skill being less desirable, which again, sometimes just fixing bugs makes skills less desirable. I will set that skill for a full release to be 100% back experience if you want to unlearn it. So this release, chain lightning, I forget what else. There's another skill that I had that I changed the effectiveness of it. But anyways, for chain lightning for this release, last release, the fizzle rate was set wrong on it. So basically guys in plate mail could run around doing chain lightning even though they couldn't cast lightning, which of course is crazy since it's a higher tier skill in the same spell tree. And it was clearly a bug. But anyways, since I changed that and a lot of people had leveled up chain lightning just because they could cast it in plate mail, for this release, if you want to unlearn chain lightning, you'll get back 100% of the experience you put into it. Not all at once. Each use, you'll pull some out. But there's no loss. If you pull 100 experience points out, you get 100 back into your pool.
So, couple things. First is 13 minutes until you lose the room, and a good chunk of stuff left to go over. So, there's that. The next thing is Corpor and Alcides. Min-maxers.
Yes, the min-maxers
are both telling you that you need to love on bludgeon as well.
Yeah, bludgeon and polearm were both supposed to. Alcides, I told him I was going to try to get something in for yesterday's patch, but I was too busy working on other things that, despite what he might think, were more important than bludgeon and polearms getting a little bit more love.
So,
way cooler. So there's one thing for him.
So experience. The last touch here is producer. On the producer, how you gain producer experience. What happens when you spend, and you already said it. When you die, you don't lose anything. But did you want to touch that at all?
Really, just we try to figure out what things, like on adventuring, what makes you gain experience. There's actually a lot of ways to gain experience on adventuring. Killing stuff is the most obvious and endless way. There's the quest type stuff that you can do, but for crafting, it is pretty much anything you do crafting. Hopefully anything you do crafting will give you some experience. It's a little tougher to figure out the leveling up mechanism. Like, okay, you craft a shoe, boots at when you're low level. When you craft them at high level, they don't really give more experience for crafting them. So that's one of the things that it's a very different experience. Whereas in adventuring, it's a lot easier to see the leveling up progression. It's a little harder to see how we increase the experience on crafting stuff when we level up. But anyways, the general idea is just that as you craft things, as you forge things, whatever type of crafting, doesn't have to be the final product. It can be the raw goods. Same thing for salvaging stuff. You will get some amount of experience earned and some amount of experience applied to the skills you're trying to level up. Again, it works just like adventuring, except instead of killing stuff, as you craft stuff, as you do anything in crafting. We just on comments on that's some people have wondered why, like, I can go around the world and collect world items and salvage them, but it gets so little rewards. Why is that? Why don't you make these things more valuable? If I find a sword in the world versus I kill something, get a sword off them. So those two things are actually very different. Because the world items are very bottable, hackable type things, we try to make sure there's no risk involved in getting those. They're more of just like I'm passing by and I want to pick them up. So those are really more the price you're paying for those is the time spent on those things. So we have to minimize the amount of rewards for those things. There's still some benefits that I know some people had reported early on. It's like, I've got the perfect scam exploit. I go and collect all these things and then we break them down for wood charge. But those are the type of things we've looked at them and done the rough math on them to try to evaluate to make sure that guy who thinks he's scamming is not really scamming, because the price he's paying is all the time for minimum results. But you can get some experience from it. Where's it going? Oh, another thing I want to make sure and mention was, if you look at our recipes and crafting, this kind of goes over into economy a little bit. we try to make sure there are very few profitable loops in the game for a number of reasons. And when I say profitable loops, the worst profitable loop, and we actually had one this last release that we fortunately caught before it did any damage, is a loop where you can go to a merchant, an NPC merchant, not a player vendor, but an NPC merchant, buy item X, Y, and Z off of him for 50 gold total, take it to a crafting table, turn it into something, sell that for more than 50 gold. We actually had one that was you could buy ingredients to craft. It cost 64 gold to get the parts, and you could sell it for 80 gold. That snuck by our checks. But the reason we try to avoid that is just what I'm talking about here with well, there's a number of reasons. One, we don't want to reward people for the absolute most tedious thing that you could possibly ever do in the game. Remind me to talk about farming sometimes too. But the other is we don't want those are the type of things that are also super bottable and super basically here's how I produce infinite experience points is I go buy 500 of each of these things and I come back here and craft 500 of them. Then I go and sell them. And then I buy 600 and I come back and craft them and I sell them. It's all very bottable. It's all very
boring.
Boring, yeah. And we're basically, because there's some players out there that like doing it, basically they love the min-maxing aspect of it. They love the dings. They love what they feel like they're gaming the system. But anyways, we try to avoid those type of loops. There will almost always be either there will be a gold loss and you're paying in gold for the experience you'll be gaining from it, or there will be some type of item that is only found in the world, like a bear skin or some other things, corpse wax or something like that. So that's why if you see, I know there's a lot of crafters out there that are frustrated. It's like, I crafted this dagger and it cost me 150 gold to craft it, and I only could sell it for 50 gold to a merchant. Well, that's part of why is because if we didn't do that, it would immediately become a big loop of all I'm going to do is go and buy 1 million of this, go back and craft 1 million of that, sell it for 1 million of those to a merchant. There are other ways to limit that. We could also do things, as I'm sure there's people yelling at their screen, we could also do things like having the merchants only buy a limited number per day, but then it ends up with basically you get a waiting line of people who happen to be there at the right time and people madly clicking and having the mad dash to see who can sell it first before the merchant runs out of gold. We chose not to do that and instead to go with just making sure that the loops were not profitable. The thing that you gain from the gold that you lose in that production cycle, if you do find something like that is a loop where you can buy either from player vendors or from merchants, you can buy stuff and make stuff. You're basically paying gold to trade, to spend time to transfer that into experience is kind of what you're gaining in that.
Okay,
we've
got 5 minutes. What you're saying is very important, so I didn't want to interrupt, but now I'm going to interrupt and say we've got 5 minutes and you've got
7 pages of material to cover.
Yeah, 3 more things that I think you might want to cover. But I'll give you the 3 and you can pick between them. Is the leveling of producer skills and the feedback from issue 1 talking more about server architecture, recovering the combat math to discuss crit, and what is the benefit of getting a crit and crafting. So those kind of are the 3 things: is the server architecture, crit math, or crit and crafting. And you've got 5 minutes. Go. Whatever you want.
So I'm not the biggest crafting expert in the world. I do give feedback on a lot of that stuff. I don't know it as well as I do the combat stuff, and I think the combat stuff is where real min-maxers live. Even though Violation wants me to talk about crafting stuff.
Scrap that, and we say server architecture and crit math. Which one?
So the crit math.
Crit math.
If you want to, you can throw up the numbers up there. People were asking about the crit math stuff. There's the crit chance, and also all of this is very likely to change over time, because this is one of the things I'm looking at right now is some skills and numbers have gotten higher than originally predicted or projected in our spreadsheets. And so probably some math will come around to change some of these things.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Twitter chat just blew up. Crit math, crit math, crit math! All exclamations. They're going nuts. I'm sorry. Keep going.
All right. Well, so anyway, some numbers have changed. So some of these will change. Like for instance, the magic chance will probably change to reduce the amount that int applies to the math. But again, that one is another one that's based on square root, so it kind of levels itself out. It's not as noticeable. But I think that's one thing probably seeing that players probably didn't realize how important intelligence was for critical stuff. But yeah, the numbers are up there. So I mean, it's pretty much your skill level plus your intelligence times 2. The square root of that times a constant is where the base number comes from. Then there's also you get spell crit bonuses from things. The magic, the damage for it. Now these things have changed a little bit along the way, and will probably continue to change. Right now, the magic, we calculate damage. There's a spell damage function that calculates damage that basically gives here's the min number and the max number. When you do a crit, basically you are getting from the maximum amount to 2 times the maximum amount. So if you normally do 5 to 20 points of damage, you will do 20 to 40 points of damage for critical damage. There's actually a few things get applied after that and change things around a little bit.
I'm answering a question live. I highlighted where Carapacian cloth comes in. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you see what's on my screen right now?
Yes, I do.
So where it says
yes,
spell
I believe
crit
that is
bonus.
one thing that can add into that.
Yeah, so that's what it's talking about, is right there, spell crit bonus. So anyway, keep going.
And the names on some of these things have been changed. I pulled some of this out of code and then changed up a few things so that it was a little more legible to people. Let's see. So anyways, magic damage is that. Melee damage that's one of those things we calculate the base damage for a normal hit. We do whatever the base damage is. We do from half that to 1.5 times that. For a crit hit, we currently do the full damage to 2 times the full damage. So a normal hit will actually, a crit for melee, this is another thing that I'm well aware of, but again, I've got to go update spreadsheets to include a lot of this weapon crit changes, a lot of the stuff that came online with the armor or the gear that I wasn't fully planning for, that kind of happened without me knowing about some of it. The crit for weapons is not as big as the crit for spells, and I'm well aware of that, and that's one of those things, again, as soon as I get back to the spreadsheet side of things, which hopefully will be pretty soon, I'll make sure and get some of those things balanced out. Let's see. So that's kind of the rough thing.
A comment back is that crit math is not friendly for one-handed weapons. Right after you say that, I look over in chat and see that.
Shut up.
And that was who said it.
Oh, shoot. A lot on Discord.
And he's very clear. He says his name is Alcedis. Alcedis. I almost said it right then, but I'll say it again anyway. So we have 1 minute before you lose your room. Do you want to finish on anything right now?
I guess I can mention real quick that we had a server. Actually, officially there were 18 people. Our server went down, is what it appeared to be most people. But we had actually 18 people who played through the entire thing and were actually giving us updates on, hey, yeah, server's still up, still fine. If you zone, you lose the connection. So we actually had our firewall router box that's the first point of contact to the gigabit fiber coming into our server cluster. That had a hardware panic that we still are not exactly sure of what's going on, but that had a hardware panic, and after the connections, but it couldn't create new connections for some reason. So anybody who was connected to the game and did not change zones actually stayed online. This was Saturday morning, I believe. Saturday morning around 1 o'clock in the morning, I think is when it started, and lasted until about 7. So during that time, if you were in the game and you didn't change scenes, then you were fine and you didn't notice anything except the population was shrinking. If you weren't one of those, you couldn't connect and you couldn't zone. So anyways, the main problem with that, we aren't exactly sure. It was some type of hardware panic. The actual hardware panic thing appears to have actually happened this morning at 9:40 a.m. and about 50 people got kicked off the server. So anyways, we are taking that as a hint that we are going to move off of that particular machine. We actually have 4 redundant versions of that exact same machine set up, so that all I have to do is go down and pull out 1 gigabit, 7 gigabit fiber, connection and plug it into the other one. So we will be doing that quick. Hopefully we do not have another major panic where it stops taking new connections. But anyways, we are aware of that. It actually did not take the servers down. It was not a server issue, but rather a connection into the server cluster panic. So anyways, we will be dealing with that. And I now have people waiting for the room, so I should sign off.
Cool. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm going to go ahead and archive this one, throw it on the forums, and have a good day, week, so on and so forth. So I'm going to
had stuff left over, so we'll have to do another one.
I guess so. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect in like 4, 3. Do you want to stop your broadcast as well? Yes.